Hello, friends. Welcome to my presentation once again. This is Global Citizen, and today I'm going to talk about Chinese aggression, an imperialistic aggression, and its neighborhood. I'm also going to attempt to compare the Chinese Communist Party with some other thing, whether it is really a political party or something else, syndicate or maybe gang or uh, because somebody is not really doing a legal thing or not really doing something uh, ethical, or always been acting in an unethical, coercive method, intimidating manner, then what should we call this? A mafia, a mafia gang, syndicate. Okay, well, I'll talk about that in my presentation later, but I want to show you a map which is the actual China, basically, without annexation of its three biggest, most big, least populated and the biggest provinces of China. And these provinces are East Turkestan, which has been colonized by the Qing dynasty. Similarly, southern Mongolia was colonized by Qing dynasty. Okay, and then illegal annexation of Tibet, which was independent state until 1950. Okay, and this is like these three provinces. Now, of course, Tibet is still known as autonomous province of China as Tibet. Okay, but East Turkestan is known as, that is on the northwestern region of China. It's known as Xinjiang province of China, and South Mongolia is known as Inner Mongolia. But all these have absolutely different culture than the normal common Chinese culture. And I'm just, if you have noticed, the total area constitute more than 45% of Chinese current geographical area. Now, I have attempted to see, is it really, what is Chinese Communist Party? Is it no real political party or goon or mafia like syndicate in the guise of a political party? And I guess it is true. It is kind of like a not real political party, but it's really a mafia or syndicate being operated by few elite people of the party, okay, and who have a very vicious mindset, an expansionist mindset. They can go to any extent to achieve their nefarious objectives. So I want to describe what is mafia and how does a mafia work. In order to find out the best descriptive definition, I had seen the description given on Wikipedia. Okay, a mafia is a type of organized crime syndicate whose primary activities are protection, racketeering, arbitrating disputes between criminals and brokering and enforcing illegal agreements and transactions. Mafia often engage in secondary activities such as gambling, loan sharking, drug trafficking, prostitution, and fraud. Mafia gives protection to private firms. Okay, in order to get more details about mafias, how do they operate or how do they act, you can go to website www.en.wikipedia.org/wiki/mafia. So, just want to give you a kind of a snapshot of their history, the Chinese Communist Party's history, how they tend to nibble away neighbors' territories and stake claims on their, basically nibble away their land, and slowly they basically stake their claim on the larger portion of the land of their neighbors. Ever since the inception of Chinese Communist Party, which was named like Chinese name is Zhongguo Gonghan Dam. Okay? They have been indulging in that kind of behavior. They first overthrew their own uh, government, and then they came into power in 1949. In October 1949. Ever since then, they have been indulging in subduing those who they consider weak, weak or weaker nations. They have, they basically nibble away inch by inch of their neighbor's land, and then they stake claims and annex them. That's what exactly has happened to their um, big bigger neighbors such as East Turkestan, some South Mongolia, and Tibet. And then they say they have been their historical part, integral part of China. They have always been like that since ages, which is absolutely incorrect. They always have a mafia like behavior and rogue like attitude. They attempt to threaten others, they attempt to intimidate others who do not accept their behavior or their point of view. you know and they, just like a mafia, they provide protections to other authoritarian regimes around the world, or other authoritarian or rogue regimes. And then in turn they exploit their resources for throwaway prices. This is when the People's Liberation Army soldiers were marching towards Lhasa. Um, they surrounded one of the uh, Tibetan city, a city known as Chamdo, and they were marching towards Lhasa. They surrounded the Lhasa and rest of the Tibet from the eastern side of the mid of the Tibetan plateau. So, I was trying to analyze their behavior and thought, why should I not be discussing about their barbaric history of invasion? So, I'm just gonna start with their own country's invasion. In 1949, they were already indulging into uh, like anti-government activities that is known as Chinese Revolution Part 2. Okay, and then they overthrew their own country's government, that is the KMT government, run by KMT, a nationalistic party. Okay, so they invaded their own newly unified nation called Republic of China, and that is basically, you can very well imagine, that's their kind of mindset the Chinese Communist Party have. Okay, for that they even killed so many millions of their own people. So can you believe that some party can kill their own people who they consider as Chinese people, and they kill those? I cannot really give you exact figure, but that figure runs in tens of millions of number. So that is what exactly is the face of the Chinese Communist Party. They have a very imperialistic mindset to expand its territories by hook or by crook, just like a mafia gang. They want to expand their area of work, action. So that is what. And for that they recaptured East Turkmenistan in 1955. Okay, and they also invaded South Korea in 1950, which was still reeling in the aftermath of World War II. Okay, and then they basically deceitfully invaded Tibet. Why I'm saying deceitfully invaded Tibet? Because they forced Tibetan administration to sign an agreement. Okay, and they had already killed thousands of people, Tibetan people, by that time. So under duress, the then Tibetan administration government, headed by the 17th I think 14th Dalai Lama, okay, they had to sign an agreement, and which that agreement was not really respected by the Chinese Communist Party, and they still wanted to take control of all those people who were heading the administration of Tibet government that time, including Dalai Lama. And for that reason, Dalai Lama fled to India, you know, evading the capture by the Chinese Communist Party's People's Liberation Army. I want to mention one more thing here. The in other cases, in the cases of other countries, the nation have their army, whereas in the case of China, the Chinese Communist Party owns the People's Liberation Army. They have allegiance to the Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party, not to the nation called China. And that's why they were the one who overthrew the then National Republic of China's government headed by KMT. So that is the distinction between army of a nation and army of the party. This is Chinese Communist Party. And not only they invaded India basically, and in a very deceitful manner, chanting the slogan of Indian Chinese brother brother, Hindi Chini bhai bhai. Okay, they backstabbed India, and then they basically captured large part of Indian border states, and they never returned it. And that is the mindset of Chinese Communist Party, and this is basically where I believe many generations have been brainwashed with that kind of mindset. And China that time, it was USSR which was running the government all across Russia and other Central Asian and East European areas, okay, and under the banner of USSR, Soviet Union, and they were run by the communist government. But see, they did not even care for their brothers, their communist brother, from where they have adopted the communist philosophy or ideology, but they basically backstabbed them too. They invaded the areas on the border. They attacked Soviet military personnel. They killed military personnel, and this all basically began in 1956, but ended with all these kind of military actions in 1966. Although Russia was able to subdue them, but when they found out that they cannot really win over, then they basically called for ceasefire, and they stopped the war. And they also invaded another communist brother in 1969. So you can very well imagine the kind of mindset these people have, the people who are running, the elite people who are running the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, I also want to mention here, I just basically, I have already mentioned on my slide, but I forgot to mention here. The Chinese Communist Party is mostly run by elites, and those elites, most of these elites belong to the Han ethnicity, and these people do not care for anyone else's human right, anyone else's freedom. They only care about their own selfish, vicious objectives, and they can do any kind of action. They can commit any kind of crime to achieve those objectives. And that is the difference between a normal political party, a normal regime, and a rogue regime. And this is why I am comparing the Chinese Communist Party with the mafia or the gang or syndicate. They also engineered many covert overthrowing of the regime around the world of smaller nations, especially their neighbors, like for example, Nepal. Nepal was a monarch. Of course, it was a very progressive monarch, but they somehow crept into the society through back door, using the Communist Party of the other nations and sending their agents covertly, and perpetrating or engineering the coup kind of thing, it's not only the overthrowing the regime, but it's basically a covert way of coup. And then basically they installed a puppet government in Nepal. They still have similar kind of puppet government, but it's not that much in fact influenced by Chinese Communist Party anymore, and that was in Myanmar. So, I would like to ask everyone else, what would we call a nation state which indulges in the following acts? You know, I'm just asking everyone, someone which uses coercion to nibble away their neighbors' territories, and which attempts to intimidate others who do not agree with the point of view, with their point of view, someone who attempts to steal others' properties, assets, or basically stake claim on the area which belongs to everyone else. I'm just giving the reference of South China Sea. If you look at the map, I will show you. I will attempt to provide the map here. Okay, the South China Sea. They have drawn an imaginary line that is known as nine-dash line, and then they claim the entire area belongs to China. Okay, because it contains a lot of minerals, a lot of gas and oil. That's the reason they want to capture everything by hook or by crook to exploit the resources available in that area. And that part of South China Sea is an international area, international water, which is basically where all those international laws of navigation apply. So this is how the kind of vicious mindset they have. They can do anything to capture anything which basically provides them benefits, and they can ignore anyone else. If you look at the nine dash line, it is much closer to Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia rather than China, and even then they are taking claim on that part of the international water. So it is very, very weird, very not surprising, because we can only expect this kind of behavior from Chinese Communist Party. And it is also brought to my notice by some of my sources that the Communist Party is forming alliance with wrongful individuals and organizations around the world, and some of these organizations belong to Islamic militants or terrorists. Okay, and that is how they are basically, and they are not the only one, they are basically encouraging their allies to do so, and then that's how they are playing their geopolitics to influence the geopolitics of the world. And I have also heard from my very, very trustworthy sources that the Communist Party is also um, indulging in smuggling, gold smuggling, and drug trafficking. Gold smuggling to collect gold from all around the world. Okay, and you can very well ask me a question: why would a government indulge in gold smuggling? They do not want to let the other governments know how much gold they actually hold. Okay, in addition to their official record and official claim, they want to have even much more gold than what they are showing to the world, and then they will release that gold to the world all of a sudden to cripple the entire world's economy. Okay, that is their objective, and that's why they have been indulging in gold smuggling. And moreover, they want to make more money, they want to get more foreign exchange to influence the world order, and that is why they are also covertly involved in drug trafficking as well. So friends, I would like to ask you a question: what would you call such a regime? Such a regime just like the Chinese Communist Party? In my view, I would definitely say that this kind of regime is not a regime, but it's a mafia which is running a nation like China. You know, And I'm sure you would also agree that this kind of regime can go to any level to achieve its illegal, illicit, and unethical objectives. I know I want to mention here that I know most of the political parties do not really have everything 100% ethical or legal, but I'm talking about majority of their actions. Here, majority of their actions are like that. Okay? And as I mentioned, that there is a potential nexus between or not nexus that has been happening between communist parties, leftist, Islamic and Islamic terrorists. As has been pointed out, some of the intelligence agencies around the world, they are trying to investigate deep into this, and then they will come up with the evidences. Okay, and of course this kind of regime has been suppressing individual freedom in China. Basically they are not only doing this kind of thing around the world or in their neighborhood, but they are attempting to do that within China also. Only few elites of Chinese Communist Party have freedom to say or to do whatsoever they want to do, what the way they want to live, that is there. However, in for a common citizen, common Chinese person, it's not similar kind of freedom. So they are very, very hypocritical in that. Okay, and uh, they do not mind taking harsh action against anyone who raises question about the kind of administration or kind of policies they have. If you raise any question, you'll be silenced forever. Know. First you will be warned, you will be censored, and then you'll be silenced. You will not see the day of the light of the day next day. And that is how this regime has been behaving. And similarly, it is trying to attempt, basically trying to intimidate other people, other parts of the world also. And that is how it has been, you know, expanding its objectives using the cover of Belt and Road Initiatives kind of thing, BOR kind of thing. They are basically trying to say that we are very helpful, we are trying to help the mankind, the global community. On the other hand, they are indulging into loan sharking also. They have an extended loan on a very, very high interest rate to the nations which they are sure they won't be able to pay back, and then they can stake claims on their assets, on their lands, and those lands are strategically important land for China where they can establish their military bases. And like they have also built artificial island on the international water. Can you believe that? They have that kind of audacity that they ignored everyone else's appeal not to disturb the ecology, don't not to disturb the environment, not to disturb the water there. Okay, but they went ahead with their nefarious plan. They built artificial islands on South China Sea. Okay, and that's how they capture the common property which belongs to everyone, the place where the international movement of international navigation, and it is basically a principle, it's part of principle of freedom of navigation on international water. They ignored it and they captured that place, and then they claim that this is their part of their territory. And that's how. So friends, this is all I want to talk about the Chinese Communist Party at this moment. I would really appreciate if you can give me a feedback, negative or positive, doesn't matter. It will definitely give me a chance to improvise and improve, and I hope I will receive some feedback from you, as well as I would also request you to subscribe to my channel. It's a small channel about the geopolitics, especially right now I'm focusing on China, because the way China has been acting for quite some time now, basically that motivated me to talk about their vicious objectives and to let as many people as possible that how how nefarious their mindset is and how dangerous it could be for the entire global community. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and I would appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Have a good day.